Coming into the summer break, Max Verstappen was sitting pretty with an 80-point lead over his championship rival Charles Leclerc. But while Verstappen has been relaxing in Sint Maarten with his girlfriend Kelly Piquet, his engineers were hard at work installing major upgrades. So, why were the championship leaders so desperate to make changes? And what are the upgrades they're bringing for the second half of the season? Stay tuned to find out. Advantage Bulls. After the opening few rounds of this season, the smart money was on Ferrari and Charles Leclerc powering to their first world title in 15 years. But since then, Red Bull have come back at them twice as hard, not only closing the gap, but pushing their newly crowned champion Max Verstappen towards a back-to-back trophy. Since Australia, Verstappen has won 7 out of 10 rounds. His deadly accuracy has meant that he rarely missed an opportunity, but he was also helped along by Ferrari's implosion. Charles Leclerc is barely hanging on to second place in the standings after a series of disastrous races. A turbo issue in Spain and a power unit failure in Azerbaijan turned 2 of his pole positions into DNFs. The only good news for the prancing horses has been that their package has looked quicker than Red Bull most weekends. The only chink in their armor has been their long straights. Ferrari has been quicker around slow and medium corners, but Red Bull had a top speed advantage. But after the Canadian Grand Prix, a new rear wing slashed that advantage and put the Ferraris clearly ahead. Red Bull know that they have been fortunate to have such a big lead. One calculation estimates that Leclerc has lost a staggering 140 points due to mistakes and reliability issues. That's why during the summer break, the Milton Keynes team have been busy installing new parts on the RB18 in the hopes of catching up to Ferrari's pace. Red Bull have confirmed that the Singapore Grand Prix will be their last major upgrade of the season. Engine power. In motorsport, the focus should be on getting the car as quick as possible, right? Well, it's usually more important to get the car over the line. Reliability issues have plagued Ferrari's season, and the most troublesome part is their engine. Their team principal, Mattia Binotto, is an engine specialist. He worked in the engine department of Ferrari during Michael Schumacher's unstoppable reign, so he knows their power unit inside and out. When asked about the recurring engine failures this season, he said, "I don't think we push too hard because you can never have enough performance, but we certainly prioritize performance over reliability." Those words may come back to haunt him as Leclerc has already lost 2 likely wins, which would have put him 50 points ahead of where he is now. However, there may be some method to Binotto's madness. This end of the year is when engines will be officially frozen until 2025. That means no more development, testing, and not much tinkering. If Ferrari have the more powerful model, then they only have to find the key to making it more reliable, which could be an easier task than finding jumps in performance during the freeze. A long-term plan also matches with what he said earlier in the season when he revealed, "Our objective is to be competitive, not to win the championship. We intend to open a cycle, become world champion, and not only once, try to stay there." Red Bull may clinch this year's title, but could they be under the thumb of an impending era of Ferrari dominance? A bull's weakness. How do you kill a bull? This season, Red Bull's car has one big weakness, and it's one they've been building up for years. When Adrian Newey joined the team in 2006, he brought with him his cutting-edge design philosophy that had won him 3 championships at Williams and 2 at McLaren. But Red Bull gave him the freedom he needed to produce some of his most impressive creations. In 2009 with the RB5, Newey was able to generate more downforce than any of Red Bull's rivals with a high rake setup. Rake refers to the angle between the front and back of the car. While most other teams were opting for low rake setups, Newey broke new ground by pointing the Red Bull's nose more aggressively to the ground. It effectively gave the car more downforce by generated ground effect from the underside of the car too. The results were immediately fruitful, but Braun GP's double diffuser advantage that year had built them a lead that was too big to close. Their star driver may have finished in second place that year, but he went on to win the following 4 seasons. The high rake design, combined with a shorter wheelbase, meant that more air went through the diffuser, which created a stronger suction effect with the ground. A new year. With this year's regulation changes, Newey admitted that he had to abandon the high rake concept entirely. Speaking to Auto, Motor und Sport before the season began, he said, "By nature, that rake will be less. They have to drive as close to the road as possible to take advantage of the ground effect. You certainly won't see any more cars that are as high at the back as they are now." Somehow though, Newey has still come out on top by once again going in a different direction than other teams. He chose to the arrangement of the new wing beam components by placing one in front of the other, and returning to the use of a lower rear wing. But before the Hungarian Grand Prix, Red Bull placed the upper part of their beam wing below the exhaust instead. At the Hungarian Grand Prix, Verstappen had an uncharacteristic spin to start the race, and a race earlier in France, Leclerc had a rare spin off the track at turn 11. Mattia Binotto confirmed after the race that there was no mechanical issue and said, "There's not much to say. It was a genuine mistake. These are things that happen when you're driving to the limit. The most important thing is to learn from it." But what if it wasn't a mistake? It's been suggested that both Leclerc and Verstappen's spins could have been caused by the wing exhaust arrangements. Technical experts Mark Hughes and Giorgio Piola wrote on the Formula One website that it's possible there was a momentary drop in downforce on both cars as they put their foot on the gas. Against the grain. Verstappen might be well clear of Leclerc now, but earlier in the season he was struggling, and it wasn't just reliability issues. The defending world champion seemed to be having a hard time getting to grips with the new era of cars. So, how did Red Bull change all of that? It doesn't take a technical expert to notice that there are some big differences between last year's F1 cars and those lining up on the grid this season. One of the easiest to spot is the wheels. They were expanded from 13-inch to 18-inch wheels, a pretty big step up. And with new sizes come brand new Pirelli tires. It's made the cars behave differently too. There tends to be more understeer and it takes a little more force to get around corners. Probably the driver who suffered most from the changes was Max Verstappen. He's admitted, "Street circuits are a bit tougher for me. The normal tracks are a bit better for it." That's because the Dutchman thrives on cars with a high level of front-end grip, which allows him to throw the back of the car around and take corners faster than others. But with the slower front caused by this year's regulations, the playing field has been leveled more. It gives Verstappen less of an edge. That's why Red Bull have developed their car towards this goal, and so far it's been working. His advantage over teammate Sergio Perez has grown as the season wears on. So whatever the future upgrades hold for Red Bull, it's pretty likely that they will help tip the car further in Verstappen's favor. Running low. In their 17-year lifespan, Red Bull have matured pretty well for teenagers. The most valuable lesson they've learned is never take their foot off the gas. Last year, they threw upgrade after upgrade at Mercedes, and in the end, they were rewarded. But there's one big obstacle that might stunt their development towards the end of this season. First, Ferrari can't be counted out of the title fight just yet. A last-minute engine upgrade was delivered to the team before the Belgian Grand Prix that could boost their title hopes. In response, Red Bull are focusing on their chassis, which they plan to trim down in weight to find some extra speed. Right now, they're carrying around 8 kilograms more than the minimum weight. And every kilogram counts. It's estimated that Red Bull's weight could be costing them up to 0.4 seconds per lap. That seems to be the main reason that Ferrari have usually been quicker during qualifying. It's also been reported that Red Bull have had to run a series of crash tests for their new chassis, which is an expensive exercise. Especially because this year's budget cap is the lowest it's ever been at $140 million. And for months, Red Bull team principal Christian Horner was leading a campaign to have it increased. And after it was announced that figure would be increased by 3.1%, he said, "Is it enough? Not compared to inflation and what it is today. We're going to have to do everything that we can." If Red Bull are fighting to stay within the budget cap, then any ideas of late-stage upgrades will be out the window. Do you think that Red Bull have the stamina to finish the season in good form? Or could Ferrari catch up again? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and we'll see you again in the next one.